call our meeting to order. Stand and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Chairman Quackenbush.
Present.
Legislator Diamond.
Present.
Legislator Whites.
Present.
Legislator Beniak.
Here.
Legislator Duchesne.
Present.
Legislator Wheeler. Here. Legislator Isabel.
Here.
Legislator Pertel.
Here.
Legislator Kelly.
Present.
Okay, statement and purpose of meeting, discussion regarding proposed local law, a local law to strengthen animal welfare investigation and cruelty prevention laws in Montgomery County. There's no one here. I know typically under special meetings we don't have public comment, but I wanted to offer it tonight if anybody from the public did have any questions, and the media will have their questions after anyway. So I know it doesn't say on our agenda resolution.
That really should be a resolution to adopt a local law.
I have it ready, but Martin and I had talked about just, we were going to do the discussion piece first, and then if you get to that point of adopting a local law, we can do that. If you look,
Yeah.
it says 0. If you click on that, there's a title on there, Doug.
What I was trying to clarify was, with a special meeting, you only act on what's on the agenda. So my question to Doug was, can we have the resolution unless we change the, right or not?
Well, it appears on the agenda as a resolution.
It does?
Just that, well, yes, below, not up in the numbered agenda, but below it. So it is on the agenda.
All right.
If you do decide to proceed to taking action on this tonight, the title of it would have to be changed to reflect that it's a resolution to adopt a local law.
And I didn't put the body in because I attached the actual policy
Yeah.
right now.
Right.
So we're not discussing the resolution right now, we're just going to discuss the proposed local law, if there's any discussion.
I'm going to try to compliment Stan with this take on. I think the law is very thorough, covers a lot of bases. You can tell there's a lot of work that's gone into it, and it gets at the core of a lot of the issues we face with animal welfare in the county. Sections like Section 15 on pet seller and breeder standards of care, the amount of research that obviously went into this is really amazing, and I commend the commission and legislator Kelly for really taking the lead on this and doing such a phenomenal job. However, there are I have 4 big concerns with the law, and as it stands, it's something that I cannot support. And I just want to briefly go through that, and like I said, I'll try and stay as brief as possible. My biggest concern is with Section 14 of this law. Unlike Section 15, which sets minimum standards of care for pet sellers and breeders, Section 14 sets minimum standards of care for all companion animals. So a dog or cat, as defined by the law, that any private citizen has in their home, and as a companion animal. Now, I think this law in ways is overly restrictive in ways that it shouldn't be, and not restrictive enough in ways that it should be more restrictive. And this Section 14, I think, is just where it's too restrictive. Section 14 says that you need to, at least once every 2 weeks, use sanitize enclosures for your pets, and it specifies with what and at what temperature. laws on the books that prevent cruelty for pets, and I think that's a little, this law in section 14 is a little overkill.
Can I just interject something? There is no section 14.
Okay.
It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. We're talking with the Attorney General. We thought it would be challenged. And we're talking with the Attorney General. He said, you can't have it. So we just.
There is a 14, but it would be.
It's
only
not the
15.
same
Right, it would be
14.
like 15 if every company.
Okay. My second concern is where I don't believe it's restrictive enough. Section 9 sets breeder permits, and in one of them, it's at different tiers, and one of the tiers is for over 26 breeding animals. Now, the main impetus of this law in this commission was to put an end to puppy mills in this county. While this law would increase standards of care for any breeding facilities, in section 9, allowing applications for over 26 breeding animals, that's a large operation. And I think that was one of the main reasons that there was such uproar earlier this year in this county, to have facilities that are breeding over 26 animals a year, possibly having over 100, 200 puppies or kittens a year. I think that was the main impetus of this law, to get something on the books and prevent that. So that's the one area that I think this law is actually lacking in restriction. And my two other, a little more minor concerns with the law would be enforcement and what the true cost is. And by enforcement, I mean, this law applies to everybody as it's written, but with enforcement, we've seen time and time again where laws are not enforced on certain sectors of the population, and mainly in this county, we've seen that happen with Amish populations. There's a huge concern with dog breeding, cats, with Amish populations in this county, and I would really hope that if this passes, that it will be enforced with Amish families in this county. And lastly, my concern with the true cost is we're creating a new department here. We're creating a department head. There is the opportunity in the local law language to have enforcement agents. I know there are fees, fines, and so on, but I don't see here, and I have had nothing presented to me that shows me the true cost to the county of this departmental creation. Additionally, it's going to strain our sheriff's department, and there will be additional costs there. And I think there's a big piece of the puzzle missing here on what this is actually going to cost Montgomery County and taxpayers.
Martin and then Barbara.
The reason that we went up to $25 for the breeders' permits, because USDA has their own guidelines, and we cannot go beyond what they have. So that's why the tier is set like that, more than 25. Second of all, I think that this commission was put in place to eliminate animal abuse in the county, and not per se puppy mills. Puppy mills, it has a very broad definition. Your idea of a puppy mill may be different than Barbara's or Roy's. If somebody is doing a business and they're doing it right, they shouldn't be told they can't do it. And furthermore, by allowing these facilities, if they're doing it right, according to ag and markets law and USDA laws, and hopefully this law that is passed, will allow the county and the towns to also generate more sales tax. This is something that you mentioned, the Amish families. This bill will go after all people who fall under the guise of this law. I don't think we should cherry pick who to enforce and who not to enforce. And with the sheriff's department, there are fees associated that go strictly to the sheriff's department to cover or help cover the cost of maintaining
I was supervisor in Minden, and people came in and there was a whole crew of people that came in and they were arguing that, about puppy mills. And I said, well, puppy mills under definition or called a puppy mill is illegal. The clean thing that you're talking about is a kennel, isn't it? Or is it a legal breeder?
Yeah, they.
Puppy mills are not allowed in this law.
No. Because a puppy mill is an unsafe, unclean facility.
Right.
It would be deemed illegal.
Right, so if somebody's doing it legally and they're doing it under the guidelines of ag and markets, or, you know, I mean, I don't know, we bought a purebred St. Bernard, and when we went to buy our purebred, there was probably, you could eat off the floors in this place, but there were probably more than 26 dogs there, but done right. So I don't, Barbara.
That actually helped make my point. I think one of the problems is by not, and I knew some of these problems, but there is 4 points that, talking to Ryan, I kind of had a problem. So getting here early, and when legislator Isabel came in, I love animals and I love dogs. I spent 5 beautiful days over Thanksgiving playing with dogs. Would I love to support this wholeheartedly and just shut up and be quiet and get this going a little quicker? Absolutely. But that's why maybe changing the committee structure would be best. So we can learn more and have things answered more. Did I know about the Attorney General, so I knew that 14 was already taken care of? Yes. But I don't think anybody else did. So maybe being rushed, is there a time sensitivity? Because this, yes, it needs to wait 160, 180 days before anything can be done. So it seems like when we're rushing things through is the biggest problem. So I think that you've worked an amazing amount on this, and I think that there's so much for this, that just doing the, 26 dogs, that's the cap, and sometimes people only having 2 dogs or 4 dogs that they would pair up, and that doesn't mean that they would necessarily have 10 puppies per litter. So, and I know people that have adopted dogs from these private owners. They can all be AKA certified. So maybe learning a little bit more. Is there a time sensitivity? Can we give this a little bit more time? And
Well, I know that other municipalities are waiting on this, and as you've seen in the paper, Tom Florida has a proposal, Tom Linden has a proposal, Tom Montgomery Harry has been talking about proposing something, but they're waiting on to see what the county does. I know Tom Florida was talking with them, they really like the idea of this piece of legislation, and they're seriously considering, if we pass this, to buy in and use this department as their animal control officer, which would qualify for consolidation of services instead of having 10, 14 different animal dog wardens or animal control officers in the county.
Martin, how long have you been working on this?
Since the commission was established back in March.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, and we have had legislative representation on the committee. There were 3 legislators appointed, myself included. So,
I think if we have issues, Ryan's brought up some issues, I don't know that we have to take a whole, let's identify the issues, and if there are issues, identify them, or who agrees that there are issues, and go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, to follow up with that point, and Martin, I know you spent a lot of time on this. Jackie worked also very hard on it. I went through it the other day and made a lot of notes. I talked to the dog wardens in my district, and unfortunately they're all against this. job on the local level. And they feel if we do something on the county level, it should just be a local law to help them do their job now. So,
You're on.
well, all right, well, I got a ton of questions. I don't know if we should go through them now or,
I think we should.
Okay.
I mean, that's, you know, if we have something that specifically, I mean, I'd rather have you just ask Martin the question
Okay.
as you're going along, because I'm not going to have the answer for you.
oh, okay. I guess, does this just pertain to, like pets, dogs and cats? I didn't see anything mentioned about farm animals, horses, poultry.
The reason that it doesn't mention farm animals as stipulated in Ag and Markets Article 26 is because we cannot regulate that. We do not have the authority to impose regulation on farm animals. Ag and Markets Article 26 does not give us that authority. The only authority we have is to build off of Article 26A, which is pet breeders and sellers. That is why there is no mention of farm animals listed. And farm animals is defined in the beginning of this.
In making this local law, did you have conversations with any of the dog wardens or any?
The city of Amsterdam, their animal control officer is actually on our committee. I've spoke with a few dog wardens, the town of Florida, I've spoke with her.
Mhm.
And it's a tough situation in the town of Florida.
Right, right.
I have spoke to a few other dog wardens as well. And the town of Amsterdam actually had a member on our committee that was from the town council.
Right, Ken, yeah. And I just noticed on the committee that you're going to establish the 15 members. I know you have you want a representative from the Montgomery County Farm Bureau, which I don't know what that has to do with this policy, because we're not really dealing with any farm animals. Montgomery County Soil and Water. I would rather see a few dog wardens on this, and they are concerned about losing their job.
We're not saying that they're losing their job. It's up to the municipality if they want to buy into this.
Okay.
We're not saying there will be no more dog wardens in the towns. And this committee that's being set up is also, they're going to be tasked with working on the emergency response program for the animals, which wasn't able to be accomplished through so far up to this point, because we've been working on writing
and the town of Root has nothing. If a complaint's filed, let's just say the town of Root had nothing on the book, nothing in their laws. If a complaint were filed, Montgomery County could go there and enforce. Because there is nothing in that town now, or is that wrong?
No, by passing a county law, we're creating a law that is all throughout the county, whether a town has a law or not. So if town of Root has a dog ordinance, this law still applies.
Right.
If ours is more strict in areas, ours supersedes what they would have.
Or let's say they have a dog ordinance, but it just doesn't cover puppy mills. Just doesn't cover it. This would then be able to be used by them?
Yes, it's.
It could be used by them or by us.
It's illegal in the county. If this gets passed, it would be illegal in the county to have a puppy mill
Right.
facility.
So they would be able to enforce. Now, let's just say that town of Minden has the laws in place throughout the whole county, but their dog warden decides, or they don't have a dog warden, whatever. I'm not going to enforce this because I'm just not going to. Too much work. I don't want to screw around with it. Could this county department do
They
it?
wouldn't be enforcing it. The county department would be enforcing this.
That's where I'm confused because I thought, I'm on board with this, Dukes. I think we need to have it, but then why are the dog wardens upset?
Well,
Because they said they're not losing their job. They would just not be enforcing that.
Right, if the town so chose, they could buy in and eliminate their dog warden, but that's up
And
to the
use,
town.
right, and use this
That's not
person,
up-
right, and use this
Yeah, but-
person.
But aren't we duplicating services? I mean, why are we doing it on both levels, the county and the town?
The town doesn't have a law like this in place. They have guidelines on kennels and stuff, like the town of Amsterdam does.
Right.
This isn't,
I'm not quite sure exactly how much, I spoke to the dog warden of town of Root and the town of Charleston. He's the same person, in fact, he's a county employee. I believe they beefed up their local, or their,
Yeah, they just like a couple months ago enhanced
Right.
their law.
in fact, he was telling me he has the authority to go on somebody's property. He has the authority to write a ticket. Actually, that kennel that was in trouble last winter, he refused the permit that they wanted for this year or next year, I'm not sure. But I'm just, from what he has explained to me, he's got the authority to do whatever he, now, if there's a situation rises where there's some hostility, he'll call the local sheriff or the state troopers. But he just didn't see the need to have something on the county level.
So they wouldn't. If the town of Root felt like that, the law would be there, but they don't have to buy into the,
department.
right. I had Barbara, then I had Roy, then I had Bob.
All right, how does, and I won't use her names even though I want to, but the city of Amsterdam, because I know her, I think she's phenomenal, and I know that she's working closely with you. How does she feel about this? Is the city, do they want to buy in with this? And how many other municipalities want to buy in or are interested?
I don't know how many other municipalities are interested. I don't like going out and asking them before we're acting.
Montgomery, they're on hold now, they want to see what our law is. They may accept ours instead of doing their own or enhancing it. So this is a baseline law. You can buy in or you don't have to buy in, but it's something that I don't feel if the towns or villages or city want to buy in, that's fine, but this is a very important law that we need in the county. Thank you.
Yeah, one, I think the regulations here are well done. I think they're all important. I don't think there's anything in here that would to attribute to the detriment of an animal, it's only to the betterment of animals. I think the regulation part of it is great, and I give Ryan a lot of credit for putting that together. I think the question that we...
Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan, I'm sorry. Martin, a lot of credit. Thank you, Ryan.
Sorry.
I think that what we're struggling here is the enforcement of it. I don't think anybody has any question about whether this is good law or whatever. I think it comes down to the ability to enforce it, who's going to enforce it, and who's going to take this on. I might be wrong, but I think a lot of times when you promulgate laws, that the law to the strictest standard is the one that you hold to. So I'm wondering, and I'm not against the enforcement part of it. I think that's something that I need to be comfortable with. But can we work with the towns to establish the regulations and then have a uniform code throughout the county that they all work with? Okay, that would be a step in the right direction in having a cohesive unit. And then you can talk about the enforcement of it. Do you need to have county employees to do it? How do you do that? I mean, again, I'm very strong in accepting what the regulations are. My question would be with the enforcement in the future.
We originally wanted to have all 10 towns in the city buy in, not buy in monetarily, but be supportive of this and be willing to take on the enforcement of this law because they already have people in place to handle this. It was a mix of feelings. Some towns were like, yes, we'd really like to. Other towns were absolutely not. We don't want to be the bad guy. We don't want to be more burdened. We don't want. So, in order to make sure it can be enforced throughout the entire county, the committee thought it was best to create a department person. The idea behind this department person would be 2 part-time people dividing the county in half, into districts. And these people would either have to have an associate's degree of animal behavior or something to do with animals, or 5 years experience with animals, as well as they would be required to go twice a year to ag market sponsored training, so that they can keep up to date on the issues of animal husbandry as well as animal welfare.
Kind of like continuing education.
Yes, yes.
Joseph.
Wait till last straight. Martin made a very interesting presentation last Friday on the radio. The one on the president. There were no negative phone calls on that presentation. You were quite in depth on it. It was in the law, and I just kind of feel that it's a start. Maybe it may change as we go along, but it is an important start that we need to do.
Yeah, I was thinking kind of where Bob was. Don't quote me there, media, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I think the village of Nelliston, this is what reminded me of, had a law that they passed, I think it was a local law, in regards to the Amish buggies with the poop bags on the back. But nobody to enforce it. So they had a great law that they just put up, but there was nobody there to enforce it because they chose not to hire somebody to do it. Now, I suppose the sheriff's department or somebody could have done it within their municipality. So it lends the question if you don't have the enforcement action, but I know what you're saying, Bob, and it makes sense that sometimes we make things problematic by mixing those two items together. And I don't think anybody here is questioning, with the exception of the 26 dogs. Other than that, I don't think there was hardly any, I mean, what I wrote down in Ryan's comments were the number 26, and the enforcement on certain segments of the population, but, and the cost, which has nothing to do with the law, it had more to do with the enforcement. Is there a way to work on how we get it enforced and still get this law through, because it needs to really get passed? I'm good with it. I can support it. I hate to see it not passed because of that aspect of it.
So if the aspects are, and we love dogs, but we don't want to, and I don't think necessarily the concerns with the 2 part-time employees and the continued training, because love training, love education, but the costs of the new department and the self-sustainability with the fees and the fines, I got that. We've already addressed the 14 and the 15 of the sections, love that. But we have the costs, we have the enforcement, and if the municipalities are going to be working with us.
My crystal ball was broken.
Which, to Bob's point, which you just mentioned, was basically about the enforcement, the cost, not so much the law. I don't think anybody's really
No.
in the room saying anything negative about the law itself. Everybody's good with it. I mean, the number 26, but other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion to hold that up. Is there a way to get the law through so it's there, or is it really that much of a sticking point about the, I mean, that was kind of where you were going too.
Right, could we split it? Could we put a hold on the department for, to get the law in place first and then see?
I have no issue with that. I would like to leave the word department in there. The executive and I, after this would be passed, along with the chairman of the legislature, would work together to develop what the department should be.
Yeah, doesn't have to happen because of this law
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Because and one thing that I stipulated, these 2 people would have a vehicle, but I don't want them driving Lexuses. Go out and use, a vehicle that we're taking off the road from DPW or something, so that we don't have to go out and buy new vehicles for these people. We tried very hard on how to alleviate the burden on the property owner. This shouldn't be put on the backs of property owners. It should be put on the backs of those who are requiring us to pass a law like this. And I sent out to every town in the county. Jackie emailed them twice. I made phone calls to those who didn't respond. And it's very hard to get information from them. But from the information that I did receive, the average, town of Minden had about 600 dogs, 400 dogs. Town of Amsterdam had 600, so I could get an idea as to what the department could end up producing for a sense of revenue to be self-sustaining.
Right.
I think you're absolutely right, Chair. That it's not, with the exception with myself of, I do have a concern with the over 26 breeding animals, but other than that, it is enforcement. And you brought up a good point about Amish waste on the roads. None of us here could go out right now and take a truckload of dirt or manure and dump it on the road. That is against the law. But we have this ongoing problem that I know every month I have constituents talk to me about this ongoing problem of enforcement of something as simple as that. But with the cost of the enforcement, if this can be self-sustainable, I'd like to see some numbers. How much can we expect to be bringing in? Because this shouldn't be being passed on to the property tax burden. And, without that information on the enforcement,
can get the regulation, if we can get the law there, we're at third base. And now we talk about what we can do with the enforcement end of it. I mean, not to make light, but everybody in the room knows my wife is the county coroner. County coroners do not get a vehicle. I would be very, and we're talking about human beings here in life and families, and we have to pay to have, funeral parlors come pick up folks, but what would the vehicles be used for? Actually gathering up animals, or just going to the call, or going to the, those types of things I think really need to be talked about. Again, as you said, with the committee, with the executive, and Roy?
Just one more thing, Chair. The enforcement temporarily can be done by the sheriff's department until our group is.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Temporarily, the enforcement can be done by the sheriff's office until we get our group together. And to Ryan's point, I just want to say the 26 that's based on the ag and markets law. That's a number they consider over if you sell or breed for sale 26 pups, you consider it a puppy number.
You're considered a grade A.
Breeder.
How's that?
I think Gary's biggest concern was the dog catchers, and the dog catchers are gonna be concerned, because some of them are not gonna be needed anymore after you put a law like this in effect. Eventually, if it consolidates, they're gonna lose their jobs, yes, right? But we're also gonna save money in consolidation. And that's what I think the law will do eventually. It might be tough getting there, you're gonna step on a few toes of the dog catchers that have political jobs, but you're gonna wind up saving money in the long run with consolidation. That's my feeling.
Okay, where do we go?
Well, Mr. Chairman, just a few comments, if I might. And I'm assuming my colleague was misspeaking and was trying to say impetus rather than impetuous, because there's nothing impetuous about this. This has been well considered and thought out, and clearly organized, and I think you did some really fine work there. And I'm appreciative of that work. My question really goes to process here, because these are the types of questions and responses that have been crafted here this evening. As it seems to me should be taking place before the concept is finalized. And the same thing is my same complaint with some of the other things that we've done. And it's our first year, and we're getting organized here. But as a body, I don't think we should be playing the role of Roman senators with thumbs up and thumbs down on some work that somebody has done without our assistance, or we took no issue with during a more appropriate time. And so at our meetings, we end up in these long discussions and debates, if you want. I think we have to find a way to address that more appropriately going forward. I'm in support of this.
Joe, did you get your?
Just legislator to Chelsea's point, I think January 1st we sat here talking about why things go through a committee process, so that we can have these discussions before they are acted on, so that the media can be here, report on that, so the public can know what we're doing. There can be an air of transparency before we actually sit here and say thumbs up or thumbs down. We're sitting here tonight discussing this. There have been changes made since it was handed off to us, and we are potentially going to be making a decision. I think this is why, while there are some, I think, tweaks we can make to the committee process, I think this is exactly why we have the committee process, so we can have these discussions as a group, all of us, and talk some of these things out before we actually vote on them.
It's one of those meetings where I've actually gone back and forth in the committee to why I'm going to support it. There are some tweaks we can make. Martin was wonderful, and I was able to
the avenue you'd like to take, and you want to sponsor it, we just want to change the,
I'll second.
we need to change the resolution, right?
Yes,
John?
yes.
Can you-
Well, the local law itself,
Is the resolution.
well, we would do a resolution adopting the local law. The title of the proposed resolution just says a local law. I think it should say a resolution to adopt a local law, and the rest of it can stay the same.
Is that your,
Doug, it would be resolution adapting introductory local law G.
Oh, all right, yes, introductory, that's right, yes, introductory local law G. Right. And then the title of it can be there.
is that your sponsorship? Is that your second?
It is.
All right. Discussion? Okay. I saw your hand up.
No, I was gonna
Oh.
Well, could you explain to me, if we vote on this, is the department gonna be separate? Are we gonna talk about that in the future, in the monies involved, with the pay, the vehicle and all that?
I'll be working with the executive to set up the actual department, and I would like to be chairman and others involved.
Now, would
That
we,
really should be like committee. I mean,
Yes.
You know, that whole avenue,
Yes.
before it comes to us set up, needs to have a discussion, whether that's
But
through.
by acting on this and waiting, by acting on this, we have to wait anyways for the state to come back to us. And then there's then the public hearing and all the minutia that has to take place, so that'll give us time to, establish a department through the committee process.
now, would there be a second resolution then? Establishing?
Yes, we would have to, this doesn't establish a department, we actually have to do a resolution to establish a department, which we also, there are some other departments we have to.
And the monetary expense behind it's gonna be a budgetary item every
Yes.
year that you're gonna be able to voice in on. All right, let's just go 1, 2, 3.
I'm backing up what Terry says. I just want to make sure that what we're doing is authorizing a new law, but not necessarily setting up the department yet. And then we're going to have further discussion down the road on that, so we're clear on that. This will at least put into place a structure that we can, that you can hang your hat on, that you did a good job, Mark.
Joe, Barbara, and Ryan.
I think at that point too, once you have the local law in your hands, you can go to the municipality and say, this is paying for it. Who's gonna consolidate, who's not gonna consolidate. At least it's have something to work with to start with. This way here, you're just making friends.
And I think you also, at that point, get a better idea of whether or not you want to establish that department as far as, or how you put it together. It may be much more limited or much be more expanded. Barbara and then Ryan.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Okay, Ryan. No, go ahead, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
Just a question, were there any changes made to section 6? That establishes a Department of Animal Welfare and Cruelty Prevention? So that remains?
Well, we have to remove that if we're not planning on doing that.
No, because just like when we passed the budget, we consolidated the fire services and the emergency management, just because we consolidated
No, to your point, that's true, if you don't give it any money, but you are, and I was thinking in the same lines as Ryan, you are establishing that department with us. Maybe not a nickel in it,
Well,
But-
maybe full volunteers have it.
and to unestablish it, right?
Well,
If you didn't want it anymore,
you'd either have to repeal the local law or amend the local law to eliminate it.
right.
Can we amend this section for now? Elevate the rest of what's left in here and come back, because that's what we're talking about, it is
You just then would need a local law establishing a new department at some point when you do it, which may be not a bad idea, because now you're keeping it, again, separated from what we talked about before, so you would just establish it with a local law, Department A, for this purpose. Then in that local law, you'd probably have the funding and everything else that you would want to attribute to it, costing out of it, or,
I'm not familiar with the process.
We'd have to make an amendment, and then we can vote on it, and
But by not funding it, just because the department's there, it's establishing the ability to have the department, but without funding it, it's not fully.
it's not a department.
chicken lay the egg, or what happened first?
Let's hold on the amendment they want, take that out.
Well, you need a motion and a second.
Yeah, there has been no amendment made, so go ahead, Doug.
If you're contemplating, I am neither in favor nor against the local law, of course, either way. But if you're contemplating an amendment to remove section 6 that establishes the department, I would advise against that, because there are numerous additional references in here that talk about what the department does, approaching the department, the duties of the department, issuing permits, not issuing permits, that sort of thing. There would be references at that point to a department which didn't exist, and that would not be feasible or appropriate. I would suggest either leaving the department in and going forward with it that way, the details to be established later on, or not going forward until you finalize those details.
And whether it's no cost, or we've had people appointed that's been paid $100. If it's referenced in other areas, why would you keep it in there? Just keep it in there.
If there's no money there, we can do it.
Then we've also, you'd be surprised at what people do for $100 around here.
Hey, don't put me in on that one. Don't put me in on that. That's a quote. All right, are we at a point where we have a motion, we have a second? Is there any further discussion?
We're voting that.
Right, this is
Yes.
without amendments or anything else, this is just on it.
That's good.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
No.
Abstentions? One against, no abstentions. We'd have no further discussion, adjournment.
Motion.
Terry, Barbara, all those in favor?
Aye.
We're out. I think we have an economic development meeting.
We have 3 more meetings.
3 more.
I didn't read it. I would like to vote thumbs up.
Duke's first.
Oh, it's $200.
That's why I don't use it.
Terry, I think we have a van for
Just give it back.
them to use to transport the animals.
Yeah, because it smells like it.
It smells like that.
Sure, you do know exactly how
That's for sure.
When did the emergency management coordinator go up from 100 bucks? They gave you this much. Right? Didn't they only give you 100?
It's inflation.
Inflation.
Okay, we'll convene the Health and Human Services Committee meeting. looks like we have 3 items of discussion here. These have been forwarded. These are relatively routine items. And all 3 are situations whereby once we make the determination this year, or not all 3, but 2 of them, once we make the determination this year, then it'll go out of our hands. It'll just be done routinely by the appropriate department. So the first is a resolution resolution amending the operating budget. And where is that, Cheryl? Number here, over here, this $100? Okay.
Yes.
There was a donation that, from Gibson Donations to office supplies of $100. Yes, thank you. Second, okay, full board. I appreciate that. Third item for us is a resolution authorizing county executive to sign renewal agreement, transportation of Fulton County Veterans Youth, ATI, and Veterans Services. We have a sponsor in a second. Full board?
Who's the second?
Patel? And the fourth is a resolution authorizing the county executive to sign Children with Special Health Care Needs contract. And that too would be, once we do that this year, then it's going to go routinely. Rob, thank you. Second, Barb. And full board? Thank you. Is there anything else anyone wants to discuss, debate? Thank you. Close the meeting. Hearing, excuse me.
Meeting for physical services to order. Any discussion? None. Okay. We have a resolution to appoint members to the Committee on the County Highway Roadways, Office of the Legislator. Pardon me? Sponsor. Barbara. Brian's in a second. We are going to appoint 2 legislators, correct?
Yes.
Do we have the names of the others?
Yes, it's in the resolution.
One change needs to be made, Cheryl. There's a member from the executive staff. I talked with Matt, and he said he'd like to be on the committee himself.
So total,
Agreeable to that.
So it's 6, which would include the
Total 6, yeah.
executive.
Does everybody see the names? We're all,
can we, is the press out?
okay.
Could you just name?
Sure. The DPW Commissioner, Paul Claiborne, District 4 Legislator, Ryan White. District 5 Legislator, Terry Bignac, Supervisor, Robert Sullivan, Town of Mohawk Superintendent of Highways, Bill Hovick,
County executive.
and County Executive Matt Ossenford. So,
Question.
the legislator,
So we have 6 people on the committee. Forgive me, but I don't remember. The resolution that was establishing that committee, there was one, right? Was there a specific number? Can we add to this? Can we take away from it? Can we, doesn't matter. All right.
It specified the individual or the categories of people, which I believe would be, add up to 6.
Okay, so we couldn't expand that unless you,
I think it could.
Amend that.
you could amend that.
Yeah.
As it's written right now, it's 6.
Yeah.
As it's written right now, it says the DPW commissioner, 2 legislators, 1 supervisor, one highway superintendent, and a representative of the
Gotcha.
county executive's office,
Thank you.
or words to that effect.
Okay, is everybody in favor of moving it to the full board?
Yep.
Okay. I just want to quickly, under other, I'm going to have a presentation next week. So we're going to have another physical services committee meeting. It's Smart Watt Energy. They work with National Grid. Paul gave me this information last week. What they do is make improvements, energy efficient improvements to buildings, and then you pay for it with your utility bill. So the utility bill isn't necessarily increasing, so you're paying the same. So you're basically saving money with all the efficiency improvements, so the difference is actually going back for the cost of the things that got done. Does everybody understand that?
So the reduction in your electrical usage is used to offset the debt service that you would have to do the repairs
Correct.
to increase your efficiency.
Correct. It sounds like a good program to get our buildings up to speed. Obviously, there's a few that we're not going to do because we're going to be moving out of them. So, but there's a real need for it, and this sounds like the best way to do it without costing us extra money. So, if everybody could make it next Tuesday, I believe 5. And then I'll let them explain it more in depth. Okay? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Barbara?
Second.
Ryan? Physical services adjourned. What time is it? Where'd Mr. Isbell go?
Oh, I see it go.
Call the Economic Development Committee to order. Any discussion? Anybody want to discuss anything?
No, I want to wait until you have something in final form.
Do we hold on for, anybody have Mark's?
We're supposed
I
to
just
have-
texted him twice. I'll ask him.
I just, since we're
Yeah,
just talk. I know I got an email from one legislator with comments about rules of procedure. If anybody else has anything, if they can get that to me by the end of the week, and I will get out a draft of the draft for the new year this weekend by Monday.
sends out the packets, it's usually a couple days before the meeting. And I try to attend as many as I can. I missed the last one, but,
Yeah, and, I did go, and I did learn quite a bit. I just, for the ones that don't go, I don't know how they would learn, but maybe it's in the packet. I do want to say, I did speak to Public Works, Paul, and I talked to the county executive. Next year, first of the year, Public Works is going to give us a monthly report. They're going to give us an outlook on road projects, what the yearly plans are for roads, and also buildings and grounds reports, monthly reports. I think there's a need for it because you do get asked questions about, when is my road going to get fixed, and you really don't know unless you call the commissioner. So this will let us know actually what's going on and how the work is proceeding. So, but I just wish that every department would do that. I think it.
It's not coming.
I think that would be great. It would be nice to know some of these things before. There's been a couple instances where you find out on the tail end of things. And
Right.
It'd be nice to know, what's
Okay.
going on.
Some kind of disconnect, didn't realize it was from tonight, but motion to,
are you done?
Yes.
Any other discussion before we end?
Would somebody let me in on this? I didn't get the flow of information.
Apparently, he's not good.
yeah, I agree with this, I agree with Terry.
Would they do that direct through committee, Terry, or at our board meeting? How would they do that?
Yes, I would suggest giving all the reports to all the legislators.
Oh, it'd be a written report?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And discussed in committee probably.
Right, right.
Thank you.
We can possibly even talk about